We are comparing fraction, factors, and products. So what that means is we want to know what happens to the size of a product when a number is multiplied by a fraction rather than a whole number. So we know that anything that we multiply times 1, so for example, 3 times 1 is going to equal 3. And we know that if I multiply it by a larger number, that my product, my answer, is going to get larger. The higher of a number I multiply it by, the higher my product will be. So what we want to know today is what happens when a number is multiplied by a fraction rather than a whole number. So if I had 3, and I was multiplying it by a fraction, such as 3/4, I want you to think about that for a second. Am I going to get an answer that is less than, greater than, or equal to 3? What we're going to be discovering today is that it's going to be less than 3. I am multiplying with a number that is less than 1. So if 3 times 1 equals 3, 3 times a number that is less than 1 has got to be less than 3. So, and we can actually solve the problem. 3 times 3 is 9, and 4 times 1 is 4, and I get 9/4, which is a fraction greater than 1. And when I do my division, 4 goes into 9 2 times. 4 times 2 is 8. I subtract and I get 1. I get 2 1/4, which is less than 3. So we're going to be experimenting and discovering what happens when a number is multiplied by a fraction rather than a whole number. So here we have a word problem. During the week, the Roberts family eats 3/4 of a box of cereal. Will the product be equal to, less than, or greater than 1? So here's my model that's going to represent my box of cereal. And I only have one box of cereal because it says eats 3/4 of a box of cereal. That means just one box of cereal. So I'm going to divide this into fourths. And if the Roberts family eats 3/4, first of all, that means Drew wasn't eating any if we only ate 3/4. But okay, so this model represents 3/4, and you can see that it is less than one whole box. If we look at the number line, we can also use a number line to represent this. So I have between 0 and 1. 3/4 is going to be in here, and if you notice I have 0, then I have see if I can get this to work. 1, 2, 3, and then 4/4 would be 1. So I have 3/4. So I'm going to put a dot on 3/4. And you can see that 3/4 is less than 1. So pretty easy, right? It makes sense. So let's look at a different example. The Shadrow family had 4 boxes of cereal. They ate 3/4 of all the cereal during the week. Will the product be equal to, greater than, or less than 4? So hopefully just using your brain, you know right away that if they had 4 boxes of cereal and they ate 3/4 of all of the cereal during the week, that is going to be less than 4. But let's prove it. So we're going to divide all of their cereal boxes into fourths. And they have 4 cereal boxes because that's what the problem said. Okay. And it says that they ate 3/4 of all the cereal during the week. So we're going to shade in 3/4. I can see that it's less than 4 whole because I still have 4 pieces that were not eaten. However, let's see. I have 4, 8, 12, 16 total pieces. And I have 3, 6, 9, 12 pieces that were eaten, or 12 parts. And I can divide both of these by 4. 12 divided by 4 is 3, and 16 divided by 4 is 4. Oh, right, we knew that already though, didn't we? So that is less than 4. So I would actually say 3/4 times 4. Because we knew we shaded that in because we were the shaders. So 3/4 of 4. 3 times 4 is 12, and 4 times 1 is 4, and 12 divided by 4 is 3. So they ate 3 whole boxes and had 1 box that they did not eat. Alright, we can also show it here on our number line. I'm going to show you 3/4. So, starting here at 0, here's 3/4. They ate 3/4 4 times. So it's 1, 2, 3. So 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. And 1, 2, 3. Ending them at exactly 3 boxes. So it would be less than. And that's all our question was asking us. And we probably knew that before we even did any of this work. The Grimes family had only half of a box of cereal at the beginning of the week. They eat 3/4 of the 1/2 box of cereal. So we have 2 questions here. Will the product be greater than, less than, or equal to 1/2 and 3/4? So let's think just of a half. If they eat 3/4 of the half of a box of cereal, is it going to be less than, equal to, or greater than a half? Well, they're not going to create more cereal, so it's not going to be greater than. But let's go ahead and look at this. So if they eat 1/2 of the box of cereal, and then that's how much they started with. And then we're going to divide this into, because they're going to eat 3/4 of that half. So this should look familiar to what we did yesterday. 3/4. Let me highlight. So they ate this part, and this part, and this part. 3 of the 4 parts. So they ate 1, 2, 3 total parts of 8. They ate 3/8. We can look at our picture here and see that they ate less than 1/2, right, for sure, and they ate less than 3/4 because 3/4 would be extend over into this other section as well. So it'd be in these pieces. But they only ate 3/4 of 1/2. So it is 3/8 is less than both. So let's take a look at it on our number line. So here's 3/4, and they eat half of that. So they definitely ate less than a half or 3/4. So when you multiply a number by a fraction, it's going to be smaller. Okay, so 3/5 times 2/7, is that greater than, less than, or equal to 3/5? If I have 3/5 and I multiply it times 2/7, is that greater than, equal to, or less than 3/5? Like I said, anytime you multiply a fraction or a number by a fraction, you're going to get a smaller number. So if I multiplied 3/5 times 1, I would get 3/5. To get larger than 3/5, I'd have to multiply it by a number greater than 1. So if I am multiplying it by a fraction of 1, I am going to get a number that is less than 1. or less than 3/5, I'm sorry. So 3/5 times 2/7. Think about this. 3/5 times 1, any number times 1 is itself, would be 3/5. If I am multiplying by a number that is a fraction of 1, I am going to get an answer that is less than my original number. Alright, if I have 2/3 times 5/5, greater than, less than, or equal to 2/3. Take a good, long, hard look at what you're multiplying by. What does 5/5 equal? I hope you said 1. If you have 5 pieces of 5 pieces, you have 1 whole. If you have 7 pieces out of 7, you have 1 whole. It doesn't matter. Any number over itself is 1. So you have 2/3 times 1. 2/3 times 1 is going to be equal to 2/3 because any number times 1 is itself. So it is equal to 2/3. And last but not least, we have 5/8 times 6. 5/8 times 6. Is that going to be greater than, less than, or equal to 5/8? Well, if I multiplied 5/8 by 1, I'd have 5/8. So it's definitely, I'm multiplying by 6, not by 1. My number is going to be bigger than 5/8. 5/8 times 1 would be 5/8. I'm not multiplying by 1, so it is not equal to. It is not less than, because I'm not multiplying 5/8 times something less than 1. I'm multiplying it by something greater than. So my answer is greater than. Alright, grab your notebook paper. Here is your homework. You're going to complete the statement with greater than, less than, or equal to. So like 4/9 times 2/8 will be, and you're going to fill in greater than, less than, or equal to 2/8. That's how you're going to do that. Make sure you pause your screen so that you can complete this and bring it in tomorrow.